Hello Sioux Falls and welcome to Planning Preview for the month of December. My name is Jason Bieber with the Planning Office at the City of Sioux Falls. And joining me as always is Kurt Johnson, our Planning Commission Chair. Thanks for joining us today, Kurt, on maybe a little bit of a colder day.
Yeah, we lost fall altogether. We don't want to do weather here, but you know, it went straight from summer to winter. So.
It did. It's good. It's a good thing it's nice and warm here in the studio.
Absolutely. The climate controls are working great. So this is we are feeling good and looking good. So, Jason, on the agenda for this month, coming into the Planning Commission, we have our first item. We're rezoning from ag, looks like to residential development, West 41st and South Ronsiek.
Yeah, so this is kind of another subdivision here, kind of west of Ellis and then south of 41st Street, kind of where we've started actually going south. There's quite a bit of development north of 41st Street, but now we're actually starting to get quite a bit of development on the south side. So this is an actual subdivision a little bit west of what we currently have. And they're looking to do some single family and then some twin homes as you get backed up to 41st Street. So similar to what you see on the north side of the street there. And then we also have later on in the agenda, a preliminary subdivision plan that goes along with this one to kind of give us a preliminary lot and block layout of maybe what the subdivision is going to look like and how it connects to the other ones.
Very good. No, that's excellent. Again, as a West Sider myself, I'm happy to see the development, and we definitely need the capacity for residential growth.
And that's one of those interesting things, because I don't get out there to the west side as much, but when you take 41st Street as if you're going out to the city's landfill, it's crazy how much has developed on that west side west of T. Ellis Road. I don't think people realize it if you don't get out there ever.
Exactly. Well, look forward to hearing more about this one. So our next item, it looks like we're going to rezone to something a little higher density in the residential space, going from a single family to an RD1 twin home complex. Yep. West Viola Court.
Yep, so this is just a section of land that they're looking to do twin homes maybe instead of single family, really maybe to get a little bit more density on that west side of Sioux Falls.
Sure. No, again, great topics to hear more about and great development on the west side there. Our next item, I think we have a pair of agenda items for this one as well, but going from agricultural to a light industrial, northwest side. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so this is an area that's currently zoned ag, and they're looking to do light industrial, to do another kind of light industrial subdivision, similar to some of the other things that are up in that area. So it'll kind of fit in pretty well with the existing uses up there in the northwest side of town.
Oh, very good. Our next one, I think we're switching gears over to the east side, going from an agricultural to a single-family residential district, East 10th. 9,000 East 10th. Wow.
Pretty soon we're going to be into 5 digits out there, but this is about as far east as you can go. So if you go on East 10th Street, east of Willow Run and Arbor's Edge, there's another area that they're looking to do a small subdivision with some large lots for some executive style homes out there. And then we also have that preliminary plan that goes along with that area too. So really the way east side of the city, about as far as you can go.
Well, that's excellent, and frankly, then all of the traffic woes with the reconstruction of East 10th out there is going to be well worth it for this type of development. Very good. Our next item, switching gears here to the conditional use permit side of things, it looks like we're looking at a new full-service restaurant, 7600 block of South Louise. Yeah,
so we actually have this item on the agenda for last month, excuse me. We deferred it 1 month. Really because the applicant went out and had a neighborhood meeting and wanted to work with the neighbors on their proposed plans and really kind of compromised with the neighborhood and decided, hey, maybe not a full bar is a good use in this location.
Sure.
With the adjacency of the twin homes and some other residential uses, but really worked with the neighborhood on maybe a more full service restaurant concept out there. So they're working on kind of updating their plans and going to actually go meet with them again to make sure the neighborhood's on board with their proposal out there.
Well, very good, because those kind of services are definitely in need down there. There's a lot of residential development in that area, so very good. Our next couple items, we're switching gears again back northwest, North Marion Road, a couple of conditional use permits at the same location. Why don't you tell us a little bit about these?
Yep, so this is kind of that area that's really close to Jefferson High School that we've seen a ton of development over the last 2 years out there. And as we all know, once you start getting those residential subdivisions, those rooftops, as they say out there, and people out there, it's time for the services to come now. So the applicant is looking at building a strip mall, and then on one side having a non-sale alcoholic beverage establishment, and then the other side a drive-through coffee place. So they're going to conditional use permits for each of those. They will have a neighborhood meeting to discuss the alcohol portion and the drive-through, and we'll see what the neighbors think of the alcohol portion. I don't foresee any issues with the drive-through coffee shop because nobody ever has a problem with coffee, right?
Absolutely not. They're a fine way to do it. So truly a new definition of mixed use in the exact same property. So
that's right.
Excellent. Well, very good. The rest of our items here look like we are the associated preliminary subdivision plans. Would we like to talk through these any further at this point?
I don't think so. I think we kind of talked a little bit, but like I said, these are the things that we like to see as a planning commission staff as well as the city council, is really how the subdivision is going to lay out at the time of rezoning, kind of have those ones go hand to hand. So I think they're good to have at the same time and to give us kind of all aspects of the proposed development.
Yeah, I agree with you. That will be great. And then that also just helps paint the picture for certainly anybody purchasing property, or they know what to expect when they come into an area like this, and they can see how it is going to be laid out, and then there's no surprises later on.
And really too, as I kind of indicated it a little bit before, but we got to have it laid out to work with the existing development to the east on some of these, and then for future agricultural land that's maybe not in the city now, we got to make sure we're having those access points and we're having it connect to that subdivision that could be coming in the next, year to 10 years. We don't know how long it's going to be, but want to make sure everything kind of flows together. So.
Well, very good, Jason. We have a lot of things coming into the meeting, and I can't wait to discuss these in the live meeting format.
Yeah, it'll be a great meeting with lots of items, typically more than we see for December, so we'll have to do a little bit harder work on these. So
no holiday yet.
Yeah, that's right. And stay tuned. After the break, we'll have Jeff Schmidt from our comprehensive plan team stop by and talk a little bit more in depth about our first item on this agenda, which is a future land use amendment.
Hi, my name is Brent, and I'm a housing specialist for the City of Sioux Falls, and I'm out here with Kelly, Property Maintenance Manager for the city. We're out here on this snowy day, and we're here to talk about sidewalks. So Kelly, why do we need to clean the sidewalks?
Well, many people use the sidewalks for transportation, kids getting to school, some people, elderly, disabled, or for whatever reason, they go to grocery stores or to work, they need a safe place to travel as well.
So we use about 2 feet of space. Do we only need to scoop a path, or do we have to go side to side?
Go the entire width of the sidewalk, edge to edge, and that way it's ADA accessible for those in wheelchairs.
Okay. Today I don't know if we're going to get 2 inches of snow, but do we have to wait till 2 inches, or do you have to start scooping right away?
No, you have to clear your sidewalk after any snow or ice event, and that's within 48 hours after that event. We need that cleared off.
Well, thanks, Kelly. Well, if you're out scooping your snow and you see that your neighbor's house needs sidewalks scooped as well, do the neighborly thing and help your neighbor out.
If you'd like to see if one of our city programs can help you out, call 367-8180 or check us out online at siouxfalls.org.
Welcome back to Planning Preview. Joining me today for the special topic is Jeff Schmidt with the Comprehensive Planning Team. He's going to talk a little bit about not only one of our items on our agenda for December, but also kind of our future growth areas and some of our tier map updates. So thanks a lot for joining us today, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
Yeah, it's I kind of wanted to bring you on because one of the things that we're going to have on this agenda, and maybe starting to come a little bit more frequently in the next couple of months with some of our annexations and some of our applications is a future land use amendment application. And we have one of those today, or for this month in December, and I just want to talk a little bit maybe more in depth with that. So this one is specifically taking a tier 3 in our growth area to a tier 1. So maybe for our viewers who don't really know a lot about that, what's the difference between tier 3 and tier 1, and what are our growth areas?
Sure. So a tier 3 is an area that we say will be able to be developed in probably 20 to 30 years. Tier 1 says it's available in the next 5 years. So we lay it out by when it's going to be available. And we look at where utilities are going to be available, water, sewer, roads, and then we look at our budgets for the City of Sioux Falls, our capital money, and then we say, based on the funding that we have, in the next 5 years, is it going to be available, or are we going to have to wait longer to serve this area?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. It's, you know, we don't have a limited amount of money, right? And
nobody does, right?
That's right. Even though some developers and people wish we could be doing these improvements all over the city, we really got to kind of plan, as you talk about, and really look in a crystal ball and maybe think in the next 5, 10, 25 years, where do we think most of the development's going to happen, and where is most of the demand for that development going to happen?
Correct. You know, and it really goes back to the state law says every community should have a comprehensive plan. And everything that you're talking about in today's agenda, the planning and zoning has to be set to the comprehensive plan. And that's for every city in South Dakota. But state law also says that you can amend your comprehensive plan at any time. And so we started years ago and said, you know, we can modify the comprehensive plan, but you need to go through a process to do that. And so just like you alluded at the very beginning, when we say that these areas are available at this time, we budgeted for time frames. We said, school districts, be ready, fire stations, you know, we're going to have water and road down in this area at this time. Well, things could change, but then we need to make sure that everybody's knowledgeable and ready to say, oh wait, something's going to change, and we need to talk about that at planning preview as well as at planning commission.
Yep, and I think that's a good point, is just when we're really dealing with these growth areas, which you guys had updated it probably 4 months ago, and you're actually already starting to update it again, right?
And that happens.
Yep.
I mean, and we understand that. I mean, when a developer comes in and says, well, look, something's available down here. We have new sanitary sewer, or there's a road that's available, and here's the land uses. We think, you know, instead of putting apartments, maybe it's going to be single family. So if they know that there's a market change, we're like, okay, well, let's all get together and look at it. Can we get the proper utilities? I'm going to use utilities a lot, but you go, what is that? Is sewer available, but maybe not water? Are roads available, but maybe not a school? So we need to look at that and adjust accordingly, you know, and when we just updated, everybody was like, no, this is a tier 3. We don't have roads down here. We don't have the correct infrastructure to handle it right now, but in 20 years, we think everybody's going to be okay. And then they came back and said, no, based on maybe just only having twin homes, we think we can move it up into a 5-year time period. And as staff has kind of looked at it internally, we went, we don't know for sure yet. We need to have a bigger public discussion on this.
Yep, and I think that's a great point, and as you kind of alluded to, the one that we're going to have for this month is down in the southeast part of town, where we're seeing the new Harrisburg Middle School going up, and as we all know, that when schools go up, we get a lot of demand for residential, and then once residential, we get a lot of demand for services and things like that. So this specific area and the request is, we showed it as a tier 3 based on all the factors that you guys not only utilize, but also with Public Works. And I think that's important to note, that you're not just coloring orange or blue or green. There's actually data and information going into these projections that you're doing. And then the applicant had met with staff and you guys, the possibility of not only, hey, we see it as a tier 3, but let me see if we can maybe get water, sewer, and then roads a little sooner than that. And that's where, right, you met with them and Public Works met with them, and then that's where we said, well, you need to submit for a future land use amendment.
Future land use amendment, right? And those future land use amendments have to take place the month before rezoning, because then he'll come back at a subsequent month if it goes through the first hearing, and he'd rezone it to. Again, then we have to look at that. Rezone it to, well, what's he going to rezone it to? Because then is it going to be twin homes? Is it going to be apartments? Is it going to change to? But that first step is really trying to understand how many units is he looking at? What's the density? Because then you can understand the infrastructure needs. And even if the infrastructure needs are okay, you know, well, what timing are we really talking about?
Yep. Yep, and I think that's a great point. Like you said, what's the timing of these specific things? And it's really just looking down at those and seeing, like you said, if it's an apartment, it's going to be more, you know, it's going to require more sewer. Or maybe if it's twin homes like the applicants may be proposing in the future, those could be slab on grades, or we could actually
drainage
sewer
issues.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, maybe we haven't looked at drainage down there. You know, or the fire stations, like, well, we haven't planned a fire station, but based upon apartments, we might need another a team down in that area.
And I think that's one of the great points that I've actually learned over the years is you typically, and a lot of people think, well, if I can flush my toilet, we should be able to be ready to go, right? And it's really, the most daunting thing is not only sewer, but water. And then, I mean, you got to have a hard surface road to get there, right? We can't have you driving on gravel to come into the city. So it's just all those different factors.
And we want everybody, and that's why it's always a comprehensive plan look at it. You know, if their development works, that's great, but does everybody else in the area then know that this area is going to be developed in 5 years, not 10 or 15 years, and that's why you have this public discussion.
Yep, and to be able to make sure that if we're taking something from Tier 3 to Tier 1, like you guys always talk about, you have so many acres in each tier, and you're projecting those acres based on what?
Having the correct utilities at the right time. You know, and what we want to have is basically 1,000 acres developable each year. So in 5 years, 5,000 acres, you know, and so we're like, that's what we have. And then all of a sudden something comes up from Tier 3 and moves up, and we're like, okay, do we have enough resources to fund that?
Yep, to be able to move that up and to do that. So, you know, a couple other quick questions, maybe not so much based on this application, but maybe future. Where do you see kind of our future growth in the next 5 or 10 years, maybe?
Sure. You know, the amazing thing about Sioux Falls, and everybody I think understands this, is it happens everywhere. It's on the east side, it's on the west side, it's on the south side of town. But over the next 5 to 10 years, we have a lot of growth on the east side of town because we opened that area up in like 2008. But then it's really going to go back to the west side of town, northwest. And then after that, we'll be back down to the southeast part of town. And that's where we're talking about right now because we showed it in Tier 3. Southeast of really where we're at today, we don't have a lot of sewer capacity or infrastructure. So we're going to be east, northwest, and then maybe in the long term we'll be back down to the southeast.
And that's where we also talk about, you know, as we start going south to 106, those are the coordination with some of our other neighboring cities to really plan that corridor and that street.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially with Veterans Parkway coming through, that's really going to make a lot of pressure for those acres that are really south of where we're at now and then north of 106.
You open up a road and some are like, well, the road's here, so shouldn't everything else be? We're like, well, we don't have this infrastructure. So they're like, well, if that infrastructure, why can't we have? We're like, well, we don't have a fire station. Well, what about a library?
Yep, and I think those are the bigger subjects that you guys deal with too. You're not just dealing with water, sewer, roads, but you also meet fire department, libraries, police station, parks. I mean, you got to coordinate those because we got to have those kind of facilities as part of this overall. Soon
as one of them goes in, they're like, we built all these twin homes, all these apartments, and the people go, well, yeah, but you built it. Where's our swimming pool? And we're like, yeah, see, well, I guess we didn't think about that. No, we have to think about all of it.
And that's kind of another aspect of what we're planning and what the city's planning is to get ahead and start purchasing maybe those properties to do those facilities because, as you know, development's moving fast and developers are starting to eat up a lot of this agricultural land where the farmers, maybe their kids aren't farmers, right? And so they're ready to sell, they're not ready to farm anymore. And trying to get ahead of that is just really a daunting task. Well, I really appreciate you coming and talking a little bit through this. I think it's maybe something we'll see a couple more applications in the next, you know, couple months maybe, and then
I would think so.
And then hopefully we'll maybe have you back on when you actually update the maps, probably 6 months from now or whatever the timeline is with that. But it's a great discussion to have. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us for Planning Preview for the month of December. As a reminder, the meeting is on Wednesday, December 7th at 6 o'clock at the Carnegie Town Hall. And you can provide any public comment for any of the items that we spoke about today. And also we do have that 5-minute comment period at the end of the meeting for non-agenda items. So thanks, Sioux Falls, and have a great day.